So, ladies and gentlemen, today on Sports Follow, we're going to talk a little bit about probably one of the lost legends of the Montreal Canadiens of the 1970s and 1980s. Now, this player was picked to be kind of the unofficial successor to all the francophone goal scorers that Montreal had in the 60s and 1970s. But Pierre Mondou, unfortunately, he had a great start to his career, but injuries really hampered his potential superstardom, and he might have been a regular 40 goal scorer for Montreal were it not for a very major injury we're going to get into in a few seconds. Now, Joseph Julien Claude Pierre Mondou, born November 27, 1955, played NHL from 1977 to 85. Now, during his time with the Habs, he played for three Stanley Cup winners between 77 and 79. 77, he saw some playoff time, which was pretty hard because 77 was a very strong team, probably the best Montreal team of all time. His career was noted for his great player in the power play, sort of like when Yvon Cornway came into the league, was a power play specialist. He also earned a Stanley Cup ring in '83 with the Canadiens as a scout, but unfortunately his name was not included on the cup. Now, Mondou came to prominence in the Q League, where his statistics were comparable to Guy Lafleur and Mario Lemieux in the time he was with Sorel in the Montreal Red, White, and Blue. Now, he played three seasons or parts of three seasons with the Sorel Blackhawks. Now, his big campaign was 1974 when he notched 119 points with 62 goals. Now, in 74-75, he played part of the season with Sorel and with the Montreal Red, White, and Blue. In 68 games, he had 56 goals, 70 assists for 126 points. Now, this led him to be very well appreciated by both the NHL and WHA. In the NHL draft, he was picked 15 overall by the Habs. In the WHA draft, which he could draft unsigned junior players and college players, he was taken 14 overall by the Nordiques. He eventually decided to join the Habs. In his first pro season with the Nova Scotia Voyageurs, a great franchise, he had 77 points in 74 games, including 34 goals. 77 that season had a great regular year with 44 goals and 89 points, including another 19 points in the playoffs. By 1977, his busy year, he came up after the playoffs end for the Voyageurs, played three games for Montreal. So we're taking a quick look at him. And his first season with Montreal, like I said, his scoring prowess, he was a very, very Steve shot type player. Not the biggest center in the world and not the best right-handed shot, but he had a skill comparable to Steve Shutt, comparable to like a Mike Gartner or a Vincent Danfus. He could set up a good play, score a key goal. Wasn't really a dirty player. He could play all sides of the net. Now, in his big breakout season, of course, was 1979 when he got more playing time, especially in the power play. He had 31 goals, 72 assists, and he continued that in 1980 with 30 goals and 66 points. Now, the injury bug really hurt him in '81. He was out for quite a number of games, only scored 17 goals, but he rebounded in '82 with 35 goals. '83 again, 29. But this was the years where Montreal was not having much playoff success. But he really shone in the playoffs in '84, where Montreal made it as far as the semifinal round. Scored a lot of key goals in a row, especially games against Quebec and the Islanders. And at home and on the road. And '84, again, a very limited regular season with 15 goals. They had 6 goals in the playoffs. In 1985, his last year, 18 goals, 39 assists, 67 points. Now, Ulf Samuelsson eventually ended his career with a unfortunate high stick to the eye that hampered his vision. A lot of people believe Mondou could have easily scored 40, 50 goals with the resurgence of the Habs, especially with somebody like Chris Chelios and Matt Snaslin as part of the offensive core. But his totals were impressive for what he played: 194 goals, 262 assists, and with 456 points. Now, 45 points in the playoffs, 68 goals. Like I said, Mondou, very low-key guy, and most of you see this on YouTube. A lot of people within the Habs organization felt he had the capacity to put up enough stats, like a Steve Shutt, like a Cornway. He weren't thinking he was going to be a Mahovich, but he was a workman-like player who would score 30 goals and not cause too many problems. And he was taking some of the workload away from Guy Lafleur and Shutt. But you gotta understand, like, it's kind of weird. You look at 79-80 there when he had LaRouche and Shutt and Lafleur and Mondou. I mean, he had some good goal scorers, and still Lambert and Risebrough and Tremblay. They were still scoring, but what the big problem in Montreal, again, it was the playoffs, because they were inconsistent in the playoffs. You look at the series against the Stars in 1980. You look at 81, 82, 83, where they were basically inconsistent like you wouldn't believe. But Mondou plays a factor. Again, there were 3 Stanley Cups that Montreal won, 77, 78, 79. He was the future of Montreal, and unfortunately the future due to injuries and due to circumstances beyond his control. But I always thought, for a pure goal scorer and like a pure money player, Mondou, if he did an idol like real Mondou, he would score goals from every place on the ice. In the slot, good shot, deflection. A very intelligent hockey player who was still learning his trade. You got to understand, I mean, born in 1955, and when he retired, he wasn't even, fully out of his 20s yet. He was only, 30 years old. I mean, that's not a career. Another 10 years in Montreal, who knows how many he could have scored. 400 or 500 goals total. But I see, like I said, with Richer and Lemieux, it opened up for them in the 86 season when Mondou got injured. So the only good part of it was it opened the way for some of the more offensive players with Montreal, including Richer, Corson, later Kirk Muller. Mondou could have easily been a second liner for Montreal for years. But again, like I said, recurring injuries, and you need your eyesight in hockey. And Samuelson, was not say a dirty player, but Samuelson injured a lot of players. It just happened to Mondou was on the wrong side of the stick. So again, on this COVID Saturday, wish everybody a nice weekend, better weather, and a little bit more rain. Be careful in the woods, because with the dry conditions, try not to start a fire, and make sure to be safe, not only with the COVID but everything else. A lot of tension in New Brunswick in the last few weeks, so try to ease the tension by treating yourself. Go for an ice cream, watch YouTube, positivity, Habs, Leafs, Oilers, whatever. And again, check out my Hockey Hall of Fame podcast I wrote this week, celebrating all the new inductees. They're very deserving all. There's numerous Hall of Fame podcasts on my channel, numerous Montreal Canadiens podcasts, NHL podcasts. The archive goes back to now almost, I think, 19 months. So if you like what I'm doing, please give a comment, like, and subscribe. If you like the channel, tell your friends. If you don't like it, don't tell nobody. Have a good day. Bye.